Have you ever found yourself wondering why someone you care about might pull away, even when you know they love you? It's a confusing and often frustrating experience, but the truth is, there are many reasons why this can happen. Sometimes, their withdrawal isn't a reflection of how they feel about you, but rather a reflection of what's going on inside them. In this video, we'll explore some of the psychological reasons why someone who loves you might ignore you, and how understanding these behaviors can help you navigate the complexities of human relationships. The need for personal space and emotional recharging is a natural part of being human. People don't always need constant togetherness to feel love and connection. In fact, sometimes pulling away is a healthy way for them to maintain their individuality, sort through their emotions, or test the depth of their feelings. By understanding these reasons, you can take a more empathetic approach to their behavior and avoid misinterpreting it as a sign of disinterest or rejection. Whether it's due to the need for independence, a desire to test their own emotions, or simply a way of showing love through space and silence. The dynamics of human relationships are more complex than we often realize. The key to handling these situations is patience, understanding, and setting healthy boundaries for yourself. If you've ever been in a situation where someone you love seems distant, but you're unsure why, this video is for you. We'll dive deep into the psychology behind their actions and offer insights that can help you better understand their behavior and your own feelings. Let's explore why someone who loves you might ignore you and how you can respond with clarity and grace. Number 1, fear of vulnerability. One of the primary reasons someone who loves you might ignore you is rooted in a deep fear of vulnerability. Vulnerability involves exposing one's true emotions, fears, and weaknesses, and for many people, this can feel incredibly risky. It's an uncomfortable feeling to open up completely to someone, especially when there's a chance that you might be hurt or rejected. So, even if someone has strong feelings for you, they might distance themselves as a way of protecting themselves emotionally. This fear often stems from past experiences. Maybe they've been hurt before in previous relationships, or they've experienced emotional rejection or betrayal. When someone has been wounded emotionally, they may build walls around their heart as a defense mechanism. The idea of becoming vulnerable again, of allowing someone else to see their true self, feels frightening. It's as if by pulling away or retreating, they can avoid the possibility of being hurt once more. Imagine this. Someone you care about is pulling away or becoming distant. You start to wonder what's going wrong. Did you do something to upset them? Are they losing interest? The reality may be that they're struggling with their own emotions and are afraid of fully opening up. They may feel that they're not ready to expose themselves to the level of intimacy that a relationship demands. Instead of confronting those fears, they retreat into themselves as a form of emotional self-preservation. It's also important to recognize that vulnerability doesn't just mean expressing emotional pain or weakness. It can also involve sharing one's deepest desires, dreams, and aspirations. This kind of openness requires trust, and trust takes time to build. For someone with a fear of vulnerability, even the prospect of sharing something deeply personal, like their future goals or life plans, can feel like a monumental risk. When they pull back, it's not necessarily because they don't care for you. In fact, the opposite may be true. They might care deeply, but feel that they're not ready to expose that much of themselves. The fear of being judged or misunderstood can be overwhelming. If they haven't fully learned how to trust, or if they've been hurt in the past, this fear can be even more pronounced. In their mind, keeping some distance is safer than being open, especially if they haven't yet built the emotional security they need to feel comfortable being vulnerable with you. What makes this behavior difficult is that it can easily be misinterpreted. If you're someone who values open communication and emotional connection, you might see their withdrawal as a sign of rejection or disinterest. But in reality, their silence is a way of shielding themselves from the emotional risk of being hurt. They might be testing the waters to see if the relationship is strong enough to handle the vulnerability they fear. If you find yourself in this situation, the best thing you can do is give them time and space. Don't take their distance personally. It's not a reflection of how they feel about you. Instead, recognize that they are processing their emotions and fears. Patience and understanding can help them feel more secure in opening up. Over time, if they feel safe and supported, they may gradually begin to let their guard down. But this takes time, and it's important not to rush the process. Vulnerability can't be forced. It must be given willingly and at a pace that feels comfortable to the person. By understanding this fear of vulnerability, you can approach the situation with more compassion and avoid misinterpreting their need for space. Recognizing that their silence comes from a place of fear rather than indifference can help you navigate the complexities of the relationship with a greater sense of empathy. Ultimately, the more you create an environment where they feel safe and understood, the more likely they are to open up and let you into their world. Number 2. The push-pull dynamic. Another common reason someone who loves you might ignore you is due to the push-pull dynamic. This emotional pattern is often seen in relationships where one person alternates between getting close and then pulling away. This can be confusing and frustrating, especially if you don't understand what's driving the behavior. However, this dynamic isn't necessarily a sign of disinterest. Instead, it reflects a complex interplay of emotional needs and fears that both parties are navigating. At the core of the push-pull dynamic is the tension between two opposing desires: the need for intimacy and connection, and the need for space and independence. One person may feel an intense desire to get close and grow closer to their partner, but then, as the relationship deepens, they may begin to feel overwhelmed or trapped. This feeling of being too close or too dependent on another person can create a subconscious need to pull back and regain their personal space. On the other hand, when they pull away, they might feel a sense of loss or emptiness. This longing for connection makes them reach out again, which creates the cycle of push and pull. It's as if they can't fully settle into the closeness they desire, but they also feel lonely and disconnected when they create distance. This back and forth pattern is emotionally exhausting for both people involved, but it's often driven by deep-seated fears of being overwhelmed or losing personal identity within the relationship. For someone caught in the push-pull dynamic, they may also struggle with their own feelings of self-worth. They might crave emotional closeness, but when they feel it coming too strongly, they might question whether they deserve that closeness or if the relationship is healthy. As a result, they might pull away to test their partner's feelings or to protect themselves from feeling vulnerable or exposed. This behavior might stem from insecurities about being too much or fears of suffocating the other person. The push-pull dynamic can also be related to attachment styles. People with an anxious attachment style may have a strong desire for closeness and reassurance, but they may also fear abandonment. When they sense their partner becoming distant, they might react by clinging tighter, pushing for more closeness. This can then cause the partner, particularly someone with an avoidant attachment style, to feel overwhelmed and pull away, perpetuating the cycle. Another reason for this dynamic is the unconscious drive to test the strength of the relationship. Sometimes, when someone loves you deeply, they may pull away to see if you'll chase after them or continue to pursue the relationship despite the distance. They might be testing whether your feelings for them are genuine and strong enough to withstand emotional fluctuations. This can be particularly true in situations where someone has been hurt in the past or has unresolved trust issues. By pulling away, they might want to see if their partner will still pursue them, proving that the love is real and lasting. If you find yourself on the receiving end of this behavior, it's important to understand that the person isn't necessarily pulling away because they don't care for you. They might be caught in an internal struggle between their emotional needs for intimacy and their fears of being overwhelmed. The best way to navigate this dynamic is to maintain a balance of patience, communication, and boundaries. Offering the space they need while also expressing your own emotional needs can help break the cycle. With time and understanding, the person may be able to find a healthier balance between emotional connection and personal autonomy, leading to a more stable and fulfilling relationship. In relationships characterized by the push-pull dynamic, it's crucial to remember that this behavior isn't necessarily a sign of instability or rejection. Rather, it reflects the complex emotional landscape of someone who may be struggling with the delicate balance between intimacy and independence. Recognizing this dynamic can help you understand their behavior with greater empathy and avoid taking their actions personally. Over time, with patience and open communication, the cycle can be broken and a healthier, more secure relationship can be built. Number 3. Self-doubt and insecurity. Self-doubt and insecurity are powerful emotions that can lead someone to unintentionally withdraw from a relationship, even when they love their partner deeply. These feelings often stem from a lack of self-worth or fear of not being good enough, which can manifest in emotional withdrawal or periods of silence. When someone loves you but ignores you, it's often not about you at all. It's a reflection of their inner struggles with their own self-esteem. A person who experiences self-doubt may feel as if they're not worthy of love or affection, even when their partner is clearly showing care and commitment. This internal conflict can cause them to second-guess the relationship, or even distance themselves to avoid feeling vulnerable or exposed. They may question their ability to meet their partner's expectations, or fear that they will eventually be rejected. These fears can be overwhelming, and rather than expressing their concerns, they may pull away or go silent as a defense mechanism. The fear of being judged or not measuring up to their partner's standards can make them hesitant to open up. They may worry about being a burden or causing disappointment by expressing their needs or insecurities. As a result, they might choose to withdraw and process their feelings alone, rather than risk revealing their vulnerabilities. Unfortunately, this can lead to emotional distance, leaving their partner feeling confused or unsure of where they stand. In some cases, this insecurity may be rooted in past experiences, such as childhood trauma, previous failed relationships, or a lack of validation from others. If someone has been hurt or abandoned in the past, their fear of being rejected can be amplified. They may unintentionally push their partner away as a way of protecting themselves from potential heartache, even if their partner has shown nothing but love and support. The key to understanding this behavior is realizing that someone with self-doubt and insecurity is often dealing with an internal struggle. Their withdrawal isn't a reflection of how they feel about you, but rather a reflection of their own fears and vulnerabilities. If you are able to recognize this, you can approach the situation with patience and empathy. Offering reassurance, expressing understanding, and giving them space to work through their insecurities can help them feel more secure in the relationship, allowing them to open up and reconnect with you. Number 4. Fear of losing you. The fear of losing someone can be a powerful motivator in a relationship, and paradoxically, it can sometimes lead people to pull away or act distant. When someone is deeply invested in you and loves you, they may have an underlying fear that their feelings might not be reciprocated, or that they might lose you for some reason. This fear can trigger an emotional defense mechanism where they distance themselves, not out of lack of affection, but as a way to protect themselves from the potential heartbreak of losing you. When someone loves you but starts ignoring you or pulling back, they may feel overwhelmed by the intensity of their emotions. Their fear of rejection or abandonment can become so consuming that instead of reaching out for reassurance or expressing their concerns, they retreat into themselves. This withdrawal can feel like a paradox. They pull away because they're afraid of getting too close, yet they do this in an effort to avoid the pain of possible rejection or loss. The fear of losing you may stem from several factors. For example, someone who has experienced heartbreak or abandonment in the past may be particularly vulnerable to this fear. If they've been hurt before, they may expect history to repeat itself and pull back as a way of preemptively protecting themselves from the emotional pain of losing someone they care about. In addition, this fear can sometimes be amplified by personal insecurities or worries about not being good enough. If someone has doubts about their own worthiness or is worried they won't meet your expectations, they may fear that you might eventually leave them. Rather than confronting these feelings directly, they might distance themselves, hoping that this space will give them the emotional distance they need to cope with the anxiety of losing you. Understanding that this behavior is rooted in fear rather than a lack of love can help prevent misunderstandings. If your partner's withdrawal is due to the fear of losing you, it's important to approach the situation with empathy and reassurance. Reaffirming your commitment to the relationship while giving them the space they need can help them feel secure and prevent them from pulling away further. Number 5. The need for independence. Even in the deepest and most loving relationships, the need for independence remains a crucial part of being human. It's easy to assume that love means constant togetherness, but in reality, everyone needs some space to maintain their own identity and sense of self. When someone loves you, they may still crave time alone or desire moments to focus on their personal interests, goals, or friendships. This need for independence is not a reflection of disinterest or detachment, but a natural, essential aspect of human psychology. Imagine this. Someone you care about begins to pull back for a while, and you start to wonder if something is wrong. They aren't being cold or distant out of lack of affection. They are simply taking time to recharge and reconnect with themselves. Just as we need rest to perform well at work or in school, we also need emotional space to stay grounded and maintain a sense of balance in relationships. When someone feels like they're losing touch with their individuality, they might distance themselves as a way of reconnecting with who they are outside the relationship. This could involve spending time with friends, pursuing hobbies, or simply enjoying solitude. By giving them this space, you are not losing them, but rather helping them preserve their emotional strength so they can return to the relationship with renewed energy and focus. In any relationship, maintaining a sense of independence is essential for personal growth and emotional well-being. If one person feels suffocated or unable to express themselves outside of the relationship, it can lead to frustration, resentment, and burnout. Love, therefore, is not about constant proximity, but about respecting each other's need for space and individuality. Understanding the need for independence in a relationship helps prevent misunderstandings. When one partner pulls away, it doesn't always signal problems within the relationship. Instead, it can be a sign that they are taking care of themselves and ensuring that they can continue being a strong and present partner. By acknowledging and respecting this need, you contribute to a healthier, more balanced connection. Number 6. Testing their own feelings. At times, when someone loves you deeply, they may pull away, not because they want to distance themselves from you, but to test their own emotions. This may seem counterintuitive, but it's an important part of how some people process their feelings in relationships. When someone experiences intense emotions, especially early on in a relationship, they might want to pause and assess whether their feelings are genuine or simply a passing infatuation. Imagine you've been seeing someone for a while and everything seems to be going well, but suddenly they become distant or even silent for a period. You might begin to worry. What did you do wrong? Are they losing interest? The truth is, their withdrawal often has nothing to do with you. Instead, they might be giving themselves space to reflect on the depth of their emotions. This step back helps them confirm whether their feelings are genuine, lasting, and not just a temporary attraction. When people feel deeply, they can become overwhelmed by the intensity of their emotions. Rather than dive headfirst into those feelings, they may instinctively withdraw to get some clarity. This time apart gives them the opportunity to assess their emotions. How often do they think about you? How strongly do they feel? And most importantly, are these feelings going to last? This period of reflection allows them to understand if their connection with you is rooted in something real or if it's just the excitement of the moment. Once they've sorted through their feelings and gained confidence in their emotions, they often return, sometimes even more committed than before. This space is not a rejection. It's a necessary step for them to ensure that they are truly invested and that their feelings are lasting. The brief distance helps them reaffirm their attachment and emotional readiness. Recognizing this behavior can ease the confusion when someone pulls away. It's important to understand that they are not testing you directly. They are testing their own emotions, seeking to confirm that what they feel is authentic. Once this emotional check-in is complete, they often come back with renewed clarity and a stronger commitment to the relationship. Number 7. The silent love approach. For some people, love is expressed not through constant words or grand gestures, but through subtle actions and the space they give. This approach, often referred to as the silent love approach, might initially be confusing, especially if you're used to frequent communication or expressions of affection. However, for those who adopt this style, pulling away or remaining silent can actually be their way of showing deep respect and care. Imagine being in a relationship where someone seems to pull back, not offering the usual words of affirmation or physical closeness. At first glance, this might feel like emotional distance or disinterest, but for some, it is a deliberate choice to give you the freedom to be your own person. They may feel that by not crowding you, they're offering you the space to grow, pursue your interests, and thrive independently, something they believe is essential for a healthy and balanced relationship. In their mind, by not constantly being present or overly involved in every aspect of your life, they are actually showing their love. This space isn't about detachment or disengagement, but about respecting your individuality and fostering trust. They want you to feel secure in your autonomy, believing that true love doesn't need to be constantly verbalized or visible. Instead, it can be demonstrated by allowing each person to flourish without feeling smothered. For these individuals, the silent love approach is about creating a comfortable environment where both partners can live their lives as separate yet interconnected beings. They might not always express their affection verbally, but their actions, such as quietly supporting your ambitions or stepping back when needed, show their commitment in a deeper, non-verbal way. While this may not always be easily understood, especially if you're someone who values frequent affirmation, understanding this approach can lead to greater emotional clarity. It's important to realize that this silence is not an indication of disinterest, but rather a profound form of love that values your independence while also maintaining a secure bond. The silent love approach, when understood, can become a beautiful, unspoken form of communication that nurtures trust and respect in the relationship. Number 8. Handling conflicts internally. In any relationship, conflicts are inevitable, but how each person handles them can vary greatly. For some, the natural instinct is to process issues outwardly, discussing them immediately or seeking resolution through conversation. However, for others, especially those who are more introspective or conflict-averse, handling conflicts internally is their preferred method of dealing with emotional or relational challenges. When someone you care about pulls back during times of tension, it may initially appear as though they are withdrawing or disengaging from the relationship. However, this behavior is often rooted in a desire to protect the relationship and process their feelings independently. For individuals who deal with conflict internally, stepping away from the situation allows them to sort through their emotions without causing unnecessary tension or conflict in the relationship. They may not want to bring their emotional turmoil or frustrations to the forefront, fearing that it could add stress to the bond or burden their partner. Imagine this: you're in a relationship, and suddenly your partner becomes distant or unresponsive. They stop initiating conversations or seem preoccupied with their own thoughts. It's easy to wonder if something is wrong, if they're losing interest, or if you've done something to upset them. In reality, their silence or retreat is less about you and more about their internal need to process their thoughts and feelings. These individuals might be dealing with external stresses such as work pressures, family issues, or personal struggles that they prefer to work through on their own. They fear that bringing these challenges into the relationship could create unnecessary strain or take the focus away from the positive aspects of the partnership. Instead of discussing their difficulties openly, they retreat inwardly, choosing solitude to reflect, calm their emotions, and think through the situation logically. For someone who handles conflicts internally, this period of withdrawal isn't a sign of emotional disconnection or a loss of interest. It's their way of maintaining stability within the relationship. They believe that by managing their emotions independently, they can avoid dragging their partner into their struggles, thus protecting the relationship from external stress. They want to keep the bond strong, and part of that means dealing with personal issues quietly so as not to upset the emotional equilibrium of the relationship. The process of introspection allows them to clear their mind, regain their composure, and return to the relationship with a clearer sense of direction. Once they've had time to process their emotions, they often come back feeling more grounded, ready to engage in a constructive conversation if needed. While this approach can sometimes be misunderstood, especially if the other person is looking for immediate emotional support or communication, it's important to recognize that this behavior stems from a place of care. They may believe that resolving their conflict internally helps to preserve the integrity of the relationship by preventing emotional outbursts or unnecessary drama. Number 9. What you can do. Embrace patience and boundaries. When someone you care about seems to withdraw or ignore you, it can be incredibly confusing and painful. It's natural to feel uncertain or even hurt when a loved one seems distant, especially when you know that their feelings for you are genuine. However, understanding the underlying reasons for their behavior can help you navigate the situation with more clarity and empathy. So, what can you do when faced with this kind of emotional distance? The key lies in embracing patience and boundaries. Patience. Understanding the inner world. One of the most important things to remember when someone you love withdraws is that their behavior often has more to do with their own emotional world than with you. People handle emotions, stress, and insecurities in different ways. For some, pulling back is a defense mechanism, a way of processing emotions without causing additional tension or drama in the relationship. This behavior is rarely a reflection of a lack of love or interest. Rather, it's a sign that the person is grappling with something personal or emotional that they need to resolve on their own. In these situations, patience is vital. Instead of jumping to conclusions or assuming the worst, try to offer empathy and understanding. Recognize that your loved one may need space to process their thoughts, fears, or emotions. This time apart may not be permanent, and it doesn't necessarily mean the end of the relationship. It may simply be a necessary period for them to regain emotional clarity and address internal struggles. It can be tempting to react impulsively when someone pulls away, especially if you feel neglected or confused. However, exercising patience and giving them the time they need allows the relationship to maintain its emotional balance. Allowing space for introspection without pushing for answers can ultimately strengthen the connection between you both, as it demonstrates your respect for their needs and emotional processes. Boundaries. Protecting your emotional well-being. While patience is crucial, it's equally important to set boundaries for your own emotional well-being. You cannot control how someone else handles their emotions, but you can control how you respond to the situation. If you feel like you're being neglected or left in emotional limbo for too long, it's essential to communicate your feelings and assert your boundaries. Setting boundaries means expressing your needs in the relationship without compromising your own sense of self. It's about finding a balance between offering support and ensuring that your emotional needs are also being met. For example, if you've given your partner the space they need to process their emotions, but find that you are left feeling emotionally drained or uncertain, it's important to share those feelings with them in a constructive way. Communication is key when it comes to boundaries. Let them know that you understand their need for space, but you also need clear communication to feel secure and valued in the relationship. Be open about how their withdrawal affects you emotionally, and ensure that your needs for connection and reassurance are communicated respectfully. This is not about pressuring the other person to change their behavior, but rather about maintaining a healthy, reciprocal dynamic in the relationship. The balance between empathy and self-care. Patience and boundaries are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they complement each other. By practicing patience, you allow your partner the space to process their emotions at their own pace, showing empathy for their needs. Simultaneously, by setting boundaries, you ensure that you don't neglect your own emotional health in the process. It's important to recognize that you deserve respect, clarity, and emotional security in any relationship. While it's essential to give someone the time they need to sort through their feelings, it's equally important to make sure that your emotional well-being is not being sacrificed in the process. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect, communication, and understanding. And by embracing patience and boundaries, you can create an environment where both partners feel supported and valued. In the end, the person who loves you may be withdrawing, not because they are pulling away from you, but because they need time to reconnect with themselves. By giving them the space they need, while also advocating for your own needs, you ensure that the relationship can thrive and grow. Relationships are a delicate balance of giving and receiving, and by embracing both patience and boundaries, you can foster a connection that is both healthy and sustainable.